The cafe buzzed softly with the low hum of conversations and the gentle clinking of ceramic cups. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, a comforting presence for most patrons. Sophia Grant, however, wasn't comforted. She sat by the window, her laptop open but her thoughts far away. Her day had been a nightmare. Hours earlier, she had caught her boyfriend shamelessly flirting with another woman. The betrayal stung, leaving a hollow ache in her chest and a simmering anger in her heart. As she reached for her phone, it buzzed with yet another message from him. "Sophia, it wasn't a big deal. Can we talk?" With a frustrated growl, Sophia shoved the phone into her bag. The sudden movement knocked over her coffee cup, and the dark liquid spread across the table in an instant. "Damn it," she muttered under her breath, grabbing a napkin to clean the spill. In her haste, she didn't notice her scarf slipping from her chair onto the floor. At the counter, Ethan Reed waited for his coffee. Dressed in a tailored navy suit, his sharp, calm demeanor exuded quiet authority. As the founder of a thriving tech company, Ethan was used to blending into the background, preferring to keep a low profile. He glanced down and noticed the scarf lying near Sophia's table. Approaching with the scarf in hand, Ethan cleared his throat. "Excuse me, I think you dropped this." Sophia, still fuming from her earlier ordeal, barely registered his words. She only noticed the looming figure standing too close for comfort. Her mind, already frazzled, jumped to the worst conclusion. "How dare you touch me?" she snapped, her voice loud enough to turn heads. Ethan froze, startled. "Wait, I didn't..." Before he could finish, Sophia stood, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. Without another word, her hand flew up, the sharp sound of the slap echoing through the cafe. The room fell silent. Ethan's cheek stung from the impact, but the humiliation was far worse. For a moment, his lips parted as if to say something, but he stopped himself. He held up the scarf, his expression unreadable, though a flicker of hurt crossed his face. "I was just trying to return this," he said quietly before placing it on the table and walking out, his back straight but his steps slower than usual. Sophia stood frozen, her breath catching as the realization hit her. She looked down at the scarf, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. Around her, whispers began to ripple through the cafe, their judgment heavy in the air. "What have I done?" she whispered to herself, sinking back into her chair. Little did Sophia know, this was only the beginning of her story with Ethan Reed, the man she had so completely misjudged. A week after the cafe incident, Sophia Grant was still haunted by the memory of her outburst. The sharp slap, the sting of her words, and the composed yet wounded look in Ethan Reed's eyes replayed in her mind like an unwelcome melody. Her only escape was to throw herself into her career. When she applied for an internship at Reed Enterprises, one of the top tech firms in the country, she dared to hope that this could be the fresh start she needed. On the day of the interview, Sophia stood outside the sleek glass tower, her heart pounding. "You can do this," she whispered to herself, straightening her blazer and stepping into the modern lobby. The interview started smoothly. Sitting across from two HR representatives, Sophia confidently answered questions about her background, her skills, and her passion for innovation. The panel seemed impressed, and for the first time in weeks, Sophia felt a flicker of hope. "We have one final step," one of the representatives said with a warm smile. "Our CEO likes to personally meet all potential interns." Sophia's stomach flipped. "CEO?" But she simply nodded, following them to a large office door. Stepping inside, Sophia felt her breath catch. The room was expansive, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city. But it wasn't the view that left her stunned. It was him. Ethan Reed looked up from his laptop, his piercing eyes locking onto hers. For a fleeting moment, recognition flickered in his expression, but he quickly masked it with a cool, professional demeanor. "Ms. Grant?" Ethan said, his voice calm but detached. "Please, have a seat." Sophia's hands trembled as she sat on the edge of the chair, her heart pounding against her ribcage. The next few minutes were excruciating. The sight of Ethan had momentarily thrown her off balance, but Sophia forced herself to focus. Ethan asked a series of professional questions, his tone polite yet distant. Though her heart pounded, Sophia managed to gather her thoughts and answer with as much composure as she could muster. Every glance from him brought back the sound of the slap that had echoed in the cafe. When the interview ended, Ethan closed the folder in front of him. "We'll be in touch," he said curtly. Sophia left the office, her palms damp with sweat. But 2 days later, an email arrived. Subject: internship offer, Red Enterprises. Sophia had gotten the job. Her excitement quickly faded as she read the details. Her role would involve working directly with Ethan Reed on several high-profile projects. Sophia's first day at Reed Enterprises was a mix of nerves and determination. She arrived early, meticulously prepared to make the best impression possible. But the moment she stepped into the conference room where Ethan Reed was waiting, an air of tension enveloped her. "Good morning, Miss Grant," Ethan said without looking up from his tablet. His tone was clipped and impersonal, making Sophia feel almost invisible. "Good morning, Mr. Reed," she replied, forcing herself to stay composed. Throughout the meeting, Ethan only addressed her when necessary. Every suggestion she made was met with a curt, "Noted." The dismissiveness frustrated Sophia, but she refused to let it discourage her. As the weeks went by, their interactions remained strained. Ethan maintained his professional distance, but Sophia began to notice other sides of him. He was a sharp, decisive leader with an undeniable ability to inspire his team. Despite her frustrations, she couldn't help but admire his intellect and dedication. The breaking point came when a major project hit a snag. Sophia took it upon herself to ensure everything stayed on track. She worked late nights, coordinated across departments, and meticulously double-checked every detail. One evening, as she was hunched over a stack of documents in the conference room, Ethan appeared unexpectedly. "You're still here?" he asked, leaning casually against the doorway, his tone curious. "Deadlines don't wait for sleep," Sophia replied, flashing him a tired smile. Ethan studied her for a moment before saying, "Coffee?" She blinked, surprised, but nodded. In the break room, for the first time, their conversation drifted away from work. Ethan opened up about the pressure of constantly proving he was more than just the heir to a wealthy family. Sophia shared her dreams of making a meaningful impact in the marketing world. "You're not what I expected," Ethan said suddenly, breaking a moment of silence. Sophia raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "When you first started, I thought you were impulsive, reckless even," he said with a faint smirk. "You can guess why." Sophia's cheeks burned. "I thought I'd never live that down." "You probably won't," he teased. Then, more seriously, he added, "But I was wrong. You're passionate, talented, and you care about what you do. That's rare." Sophia stared at him, caught off guard. "Thank you," she managed to say. Moments like this became more frequent. Late-night work sessions turned into quiet conversations that gradually broke down the walls between them. Over time, Ethan and Sophia's relationship began to shift. What started as tense workplace interactions turned into late-night conversations about their goals and dreams. They discovered shared values they hadn't anticipated, a relentless drive for success, a desire to prove themselves, and a warm heart hidden beneath their professional exteriors. Ethan found himself noticing new things about Sophia every day: the way her face lit up when presenting her ideas, her willingness to take on responsibility, and the gentle smile she gave her colleagues. On the other hand, Sophia began to see Ethan as more than just a reserved CEO. He was a thoughtful man, carrying immense pressure but still showing quiet care for those around him. One evening, the company hosted a formal dinner to celebrate the success of a major project. Sophia arrived in an elegant black dress, her hair falling softly around her shoulders, radiating an effortless grace. As she entered the room, it seemed as though every head turned, including Ethan's. Ethan, who had been speaking with senior managers, found himself unable to look away from Sophia. He had always known she was remarkable, but tonight she was truly stunning. His admiration quickly turned to discomfort when he noticed Daniel, a colleague from the marketing department, chatting with her. Daniel was laughing, standing too close, and letting his hand rest lightly on her shoulder as they talked. A wave of jealousy surged through Ethan. Unable to watch any longer, he crossed the room. Daniel's easy smile faded as Ethan approached. "Mr. Grant," Ethan said, his voice calm but his gaze sharp. "May I have a word with you in private?" Sophia blinked in surprise but nodded. Ethan led her out to the balcony, where the soft glow of the city lights and the cool evening air created a quiet retreat from the bustling party inside. "What's going on, Ethan?" Sophia asked, her tone puzzled. Ethan turned to her, his eyes intense. "Sophia, I can't keep pretending anymore," he said, his voice low but firm. "Pretending about what?" she asked, her heart beginning to race. "I like you," Ethan confessed, his gaze unwavering. "The more time I spend with you, the more I realize you're not just an incredible employee. You're smart, strong, and most importantly, you make me want to be a better man." Sophia froze, her mind racing. She felt the same way about Ethan but was cautious about how a workplace romance might be perceived. "Ethan," she began gently, I really appreciate what you're saying, but this is a company and I'm afraid of what people might say." "I don't care what they say," Ethan replied, his voice filled with sincerity. "I just need you to know how I feel." Sophia took a deep breath. "Thank you, Ethan, but I need time to think about this." Ethan nodded, his gaze softening. "I understand. I'll wait. Whenever you're ready." Sophia gave him a small smile, warmth spreading through her chest. She returned to the party, but Ethan's words lingered in her mind for the rest of the evening. As time passed, Sophia and Ethan's dynamic began to feel more natural, even comfortable, but a sudden misunderstanding shattered the fragile progress they had made. One afternoon, Sophia was delivering a report to Ethan's office. The door was slightly ajar, and she accidentally overheard a conversation between him and an investor. "So," the investor said slyly, "I hear you've been spending quite a bit of time with that young intern." "She's a talented employee," Ethan replied, his tone steady. "Her work speaks for itself." "A talented employee?" the investor scoffed. "Come on, Ethan, a man like you doesn't just pay attention to someone because of their work." Sophia froze outside the door, her heart sinking as Ethan responded in a detached voice. "She's an asset to the company, that's all." The words struck like a blow to her chest. Turning away, she fought back tears. To her, everything she had worked for suddenly felt meaningless. That evening, she typed up her resignation letter. Unable to face Ethan, she sent a brief email instead. Subject: resignation. "Ethan, thank you for the opportunity to work at Reed Enterprises. However, I believe it's time for me to move on. My last day will be at the end of the week. Best regards, Sophia Grant." When Ethan read the email, it felt like the ground had been pulled out from under him. He called her immediately, but the call went straight to voicemail. The next evening, as Sophia packed up her desk, Ethan appeared. "Sophia," his voice broke the silence, making her stop in her tracks. "What do you want?" she asked without turning around. "We need to talk," he said, stepping closer. "I know why you're leaving. You overheard my conversation the other day, didn't you?" Sophia turned to face him, her eyes filled with hurt. "I did, and I've heard enough. To you, I'm just an asset. Isn't that right?" "No," Ethan said firmly, his voice filled with urgency. "That's not what I meant. I said it because I didn't want to risk offending the investor, but it was a mistake. You're not just an employee to me, Sophia. You're so much more." "Then why didn't you say that?" she asked, her voice cracking. "Why didn't you stand up for me?" Ethan exhaled, his shoulders slumping. "Because I was scared. Scared that if I said how I really felt, I'd lose the deal. But losing you is so much worse." Sophia remained silent, tears streaming down her face. "Ethan, this isn't just about what you said. It's about trust. And right now, I don't know if I can trust you." "Then let me prove it," he pleaded. "Give me the chance to make things right." Sophia took a deep breath, her heart softening despite herself. "Maybe," she whispered, "but not now." She turned and walked away, leaving Ethan standing alone, determined to make things right no matter what it took. Weeks after Sophia left Reed Enterprises, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about her. He spent countless nights wondering how to prove that she mattered more to him than any deal or project. The opportunity came during the company's quarterly town hall meeting. Sophia had been invited as a gesture of appreciation for her previous contributions. Initially hesitant, she decided to attend, wanting to say goodbye to her former colleagues. The grand conference room buzzed with energy as Ethan took the stage, summarizing the company's achievements and outlining future plans. But as the presentation concluded, He stepped forward, gripping the microphone tightly. His gaze scanned the room until it landed on Sophia, sitting near the back. "Before we wrap up, I'd like to say something personal," Ethan began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. The room fell silent. Sophia sat up straighter, her heart pounding. "In the past few months," Ethan said, "I've learned that success means nothing if you lose sight of the people who help you achieve it. And sometimes you don't realize someone's worth until you've nearly lost them." He took a deep breath, his eyes unwavering. "Sophia Grant," he called, making every head in the room turn toward her. Sophia froze, her cheeks burning. "Your contributions to this company didn't just drive our success," Ethan continued. "They had a profound impact on me as well. But I let fear and pride cloud my judgment. I made mistakes. And today, in front of everyone, I want to say I'm sorry. Not just for the misunderstandings, but for not standing up for you when I should have." The room was so quiet that every word seemed to echo. "You're not just a talented employee," Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion. "You're someone who has made me better, and I hope you'll give me the chance to show you how much that means to me." Sophia stared at Ethan, tears brimming in her eyes. He had laid everything on the line, his career, his reputation, to show her how much he cared. After a long pause, Sophia stood, her voice trembling. "You hurt me," she began, "and I'm not sure I can trust you right away." Ethan nodded, his expression full of hope. "I don't expect you to trust me immediately. I only hope you'll give me a chance." She took a deep breath, a small smile forming on her lips. "Maybe we can start over." Applause erupted throughout the room as Ethan stepped off the stage, his eyes never leaving hers. Sophia smiled back, a weight lifting from her chest. For the first time in weeks, everything felt right. Since starting over, Ethan and Sophia's relationship had grown stronger with each passing day. They decided to take things slow, allowing their love to blossom naturally. They began spending more time together outside of work. Late nights at the office were replaced with long walks in the park, cozy dinners at hidden gems around the city, and even spontaneous weekend getaways. One day, Ethan suggested a trip to the beach. "I think we deserve a little break," he said, his voice warm and inviting. Sophia smiled, her excitement evident. The beach had always been her favorite place, but it had been far too long since she last visited. That morning, they drove to a secluded stretch of coastline. The white sand and gentle waves created a serene backdrop, perfect for their day of relaxation. They strolled along the shoreline, laughing as the waves brushed against their feet. "When was the last time you came to the beach?" Ethan asked, picking up a seashell and handing it to her. "Probably 2 years ago," Sophia replied, taking the shell with a smile. "I'd forgotten how peaceful this feels." They spent the day watching the sunset, sharing stories about their childhoods and talking about their dreams for the future. As the warm, golden light bathed them, Sophia felt an overwhelming sense of happiness. A few weeks later, on a beautiful Sunday afternoon, Ethan suggested they visit the park they often frequented. Sophia had no idea that this day would change her life forever. Under the shade of the trees, Ethan set up a simple picnic. They laughed and enjoyed the peaceful atmosphere, but then Ethan took her hand, his eyes filled with a sincerity she'd never seen before. "Sophia," Ethan began, his voice steady yet tender, "when you walked into my life, everything changed. You've taught me how to be a better man, how to appreciate the little moments, and how to truly love." Sophia's eyes widened, her heart racing as Ethan knelt down and pulled a small box from his pocket. "Sophia Grant," he said, his voice overflowing with emotion, "will you marry me?" Tears streamed down her face as Sophia nodded emphatically. "Yes," she exclaimed, her laughter blending with her tears. Ethan stood, slipping the ring onto her finger before pulling her into his arms. Around them, a small group of onlookers clapped, having witnessed the beautiful moment. They smiled at each other, knowing that their love was a journey worth every challenge and that it was only just beginning.